Hello, everyone. We are going off the rails. This is the show dedicated to Disney tangents, and I am your conductor taking us off the rails on this episode, Craig Williams. Today, I'm joined alongside by Denny Sunderly.
Hi there.
Jackie Gailey.
Hey, guys.
And Rhino.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. We have a really fun episode for you. But before we get started, of course, I have to mention that this is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, the experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. If you like us, you like our content, you want to support us, please do so by booking your next vacation through Dreams Unlimited Travel. It will cost you no extra money, but it does support us. So please go get a free, no obligation quote today at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And then also, please make sure that you're hitting the thumbs up if you're watching this on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and you're leaving us comments, questions, and video suggestions, future topic ideas for Off the Rails. That would all be great. Plus, whatever you think of, leave it all in the comments section. And then if you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to it at, please make sure you are subscribed. And if you're listening directly through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a good rating and review. But now let's get back to the actual show. And what are we talking about this week? We are doing our first, I guess it's a real true user submission idea for Off the Rails. We're talking about fifth gates. And if you're confused by what that means, we call each different park at Walt Disney World a different gate. And so we're coming up with ideas for if there was to be a fifth Disney park added to Walt Disney World, what would we want to see inside of it? A conversation that has been just constantly rampant on the internet for years and years and years, whether it's on message boards, on podcasts, on YouTube videos, and we're going to have it again, but the first time with this group, at least. And we can throw out anything. I know villain stuff always comes up with it, so I want to hear what everyone else here has to say first. I have a feeling, if I could guess, it's that Rhino's going to try to jump in and say something before everyone else, but we're going to have to find out now that the floor is open. So go.
Pixar.
That was what I was thinking. I love that.
Okay, so what Pixar? Because we already know at
just
Disney's,
the lamp, nothing else.
Just the lamp. So Luxo Junior Land.
Yeah, Luxo, and that's it.
Take the one that used
Nothing
to be
else.
up in Pixar Place, place him on the ground, and we just look at him.
And that's it. Yeah,
fantastic.
We're done. That's
it.
Yeah,
but seriously, because we already know we have too much Toy Story. We have Toy Story Land, Buzz Lightyear, Space Ranger, Spin. We have Inside Out characters meeting at Epcot, but what else Pixar would you want to see?
Well, I'm not sure if you've ever been to Disney California Adventure, but there is this land there. There's a Cars land that's there that seems to do well. I'm not saying that we need like a replica of that, and I am not a Cars fan, but I would love to see some sort of a Pixar land that we get like that here. And I know as I'm saying that, the argument would be Toy Story Land, but I just don't think Toy Story, that area hits the same way that Cars Land hits in California. But yeah, I don't actually know, because that's the thing. I guess within the parks, like what you said, we have Toy Story, we've got Cars in the California parks, and you've got like Inside Out characters. I'm trying to think of there's not really any other big franchises within Pixar, is there?
I mean, well, and then we left off
Monsters,
of course, too. Finding Nemo.
Monsters.
Finding Nemo has its place at Animal Kingdom and at Epcot with the Season Nemo and Friends. So really, yeah, with franchises, A Bug's Land has already been killed off once, and we have the last remnants in Animal Kingdom with It's Tough to Be a Bug. You have Monsters Inc., which is still at DCA, but not fully fleshed out. Incredibles gets that love a little bit, but not a lot of it. And that's definitely something that could work in a new park. But I would love, if we're talking Incredibles, I would love to see an Incredibles attraction that is like the Spider-Man ride at Islands of Adventure, but done with the Incredibles. And
Oh yeah,
so if you don't know that
you
attraction,
could get in there like their car. Yeah.
yeah, it's a moving motion simulator, but at times, even though you're on a flat surface, at times it will literally make you feel like you are falling. And basically it's a montage style ride where you move from like one villain to the next. So I could totally picture that being with Incredibles. Like first,
That'd be cool.
yeah, first you're with Mr. Incredible and he ends up like throwing you, and then Elastigirl comes and stretches out and saves you, and then you go on a fast speed burst with Dash, and like there's so much possibility in something like that, and have it all based around a metropolis and go with that style. But
I love that aesthetic too. That Incredibles, like the aesthetic of what they have for the city. So like there's a little area that is kind of like that's the setting, and I'm sure they could do some fun stuff with like being like, oh well, since it's a city, here's the food place, here's where you're gonna go to eat, like here's where you've got, they'd be able to incorporate some other fun things in there.
Yeah.
I actually maybe like back this up because I know we're talking about that. We should talk about how do you think the park, how would you like to see a park structured? Okay. Do you want it to be like Hollywood Studios right now where they have like Galaxy's Edge, Toy Story Land? Do you want it to, would you want it to then be like a Cars, or like we said, it would be an Incredibles area? Do you want it all to be these major things, or do you want it to be like Animal Kingdom or like Magic Kingdom, even though it's Adventureland and Tomorrowland and stuff like that, it's still individualized, like it's small portions of things. There's not like that fully immersive lands. I was personally thinking it would be interesting for a park that was through and through immersive lands everywhere, because we don't have one of those, I don't think.
Go ahead, Denny.
That's one of the thoughts that I was going to suggest at one point, was almost stepping into the movies. So each different movie has a different land, and you get to step into Snow White, and you are there in the forest, and with Snow White, maybe she's hiding out, or the huntsman is there, or whatever, the dwarves, you get to, their cottage is there that ties in with an attraction, or like you said, with Incredibles or Incredibles 2, like I'd love to see a ride when Elastigirl is up on the rail chasing after the train, like, and you need to complete this mission with her. Just little things like that where you step in, you can leave one story and step into another one. And like you said,
God, what if it's like all the storybooks? Yeah, that's such a good idea. I love that. Yeah.
So, I mean, I agree with you. The aesthetic of the Incredibles, that retro vintage futuristic vibe of it is so fantastic. And that could really, worlds could be built on that. Some really intricately themed areas could. So I think that would just be fun. Like there's a central hub, and then you get to choose. It's a choose your own adventure park. You literally get to step in to whatever story you want to.
Yeah.
I like on like that piggyback idea though of it being like it doesn't necessarily have to all be Galaxy's Edge size lands or Cars size. Like it could be like micro lands. It's like what you said. They're all different books or stories or tales, or like you just said, choose your own adventure is great. I love that idea that it all comes together in the center. Like because Disney says all their stories have like a certain theme and stuff in common, and that would be like the thing that's at the hub of it all, right?
And
that's where the lamp goes.
Yeah, that's where Luxo's hanging out.
That's what I was picturing in my brain.
I just think that's the way to do it, because let's be real. I know there's always talk of we want to see what Imagineers can create when they're given an original concept, and can they make a new Pirates of the Caribbean, Expedition Everest, Haunted Mansion? I'm going to say something very unpopular, and that's they have a treasure trove of movies and now TV series that they can just completely mine for just gold in terms of creating attractions out of them. And it's all relevant
again because it's on Disney Plus too. So the accessibility to it is here more than it's ever been in the history of their film catalog.
And there's a serious balance that gets thrown off because you want your favorite rides and attractions to never go away and never move on, as we talked recently with Peter Pan's Flight and one of these off the rail episodes. But to get something new, you also, unless we build a new park and we're running out of room, you have to lose something. And so, and there are all these stories that are just completely underrepresented with Disney that it needs a place. So I'm all for a new park dedicated off into individual lands, no matter how big or small they are, in different story styles, that then also it includes stuff that just isn't represented well throughout the other parks. But Jackie, you also said Pixar right away when Rhino did. What would be your Pixar story that you want to see brought to life in a fifth gate?
So what I was thinking, there was a couple that I was thinking about. The first one was Monsters Inc. And I love Monsters Inc. That's one of my all-time favorite movies. And we happened to be at Disneyland on the day that they started soft openings. And my dear friend, she was waiting on us at breakfast, and she told us to stop over there and check it out. And so we did, and they were doing soft openings, and we got to ride the attraction before it even opened. So I have this dream of, like, that attraction is so amazing to me, and it was so new, and the movie was just so fresh in our minds when that opened. It had just been a few years, I think. And I think that it would be so cool to walk the halls of Monsters Inc. I think it would be really cool if you could walk into some of those doors, into some of those rooms. And I think it would be especially cool to be able to just be, where the room of doors are, and to do it in a different way, in a new park. And I think that they should even go one step further, and they should add Monsters University, because you can get some history of what went on before they got to where they are now. And there's just so much of a story with those two films, and the characters are so cool. And
there's a TV show coming out now too.
Exactly. Like there's so much. And oh my gosh, I just think it would be so cool. And it's just such a wonderful, heartwarming story. And there's funny parts, and there's heartstring tugging parts. And I just think that they could do so much with it. So I would love that.
I do also, like, the more we've talked about it, I do love that theming, like Denny said, with like the stories. Like, it's like the park could be called like Disney Stories or something like that, or or where, like, literally that is the thing you're doing, is transporting yourself from one thing to the other, and so then whenever a land closes or something, it's like one book closes so another can open, or something where, like, also maybe it can be a thing where if they're smaller in size or whatever, we can get more variety, but also when they have to pick and choose which comes and goes, it won't be like how Hollywood Studios was essentially like half the park was closed for like 5 years,
Well, and you expect every land to be differently themed when literally you're walking through some type of portal. And so, I mean, because Hollywood Studios, people say, well, it's no longer what it first set out to be. It isn't. It's not a working studio anymore. It's, it's lost most of the attractions that even, harken back to that period. And so, what is it? And now it's got this Galaxy's Edge going on, and it's got all this everywhere. And where's the cohesive theme? Well, the cohesive theme would be, it's okay. There's separate stories, and you come in expecting it.
I was just going to say, like, what if it was all animation, and it was like so it was all dedicated to anything that was animated, but then it was like, then it could be like the history of Disney, you know what I mean? You could have something that was like you'd have like the classic area. So that would be where, like you said, Snow White, it would be cool if you're like in the woods and, and she's got an attraction there that, like something similar to Scary Adventures or something like that. And then we move into like Next Generation, which has like Alice in Wonderland and like 101 Dalmatians and Robin Hood, and then you've got like the next, then you get into the 80s where you have like we got enough Little Mermaid at Walt Disney World, but like, let's like dip into some of the stuff that we don't there, or even the 90s. I'm like, yeah, we have Aladdin, we have Lion King, but we don't have enough Mulan, I don't think. I know that's early 2000s, late 90s, but like Goofy movie, we talk about that all the time, that seems to just constantly be growing in that sort of a thing, because that's a remnant of the Toon Studio, right? Like, and I don't know. I'm just obviously that's the risk now, but I feel like in the last couple of years we've learned that everywhere has leaned so heavy into that nostalgia factor that it seems like that would be a solid bet to do, is lean into nostalgia.
I love nostalgia.
Go
Go
Denny.
ahead, Craig.
You go.
Okay. Well, and thank you. I think if you were to do a park like that, it would be a natural thought to have something dedicated to Walt as soon as you walk in, that helps maybe set up the storyteller himself, like the grand storyteller that started it all, and how the studios began, and a little bit of that, just to maybe we get to know the Nine Old Men or the Ink and Paint Girls, and just all of that, we get to find a little bit of the background, and then we're prepared as we walk into maybe that central hub, and then we can kind of choose it from there. But at least we know kind of, just the basis of why storytelling, how storytelling for the Disney company came about, and really Walt's heart behind the magic of storytelling.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I would say though is I don't want to limit it to just animated, because that shuts the door on future Marvel, that shuts the door on Star Wars in a way. I mean,
we still don't have a Mary Poppins attraction. We're never going to get either, so it would close that, because you got to think about like, I love that era of live action stuff.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot. And the last thing, I'm gonna just wrap up the Pixar portion of this completely before I move on from there too. No, I mean, we basically already did, but I wanted to like actually go through and look at all of the Pixar movies and see what's represented. And basically everything already is represented with Pixar pretty well. Probably more than it even should, because we have Toy Story taken care of, Bug's Life taken care of, Monsters Inc. We can argue that one to an extent. Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, fine. Cars, Ratatouille's about to come and blow us all away, and it's just, and it keeps going on with stuff. So the ones that I feel like maybe a way to rectify this in a way, if you can't think of what to do with any of the projects that aren't really getting a fair shake, maybe even do a fun ride that's dedicated a little portion to each of those movies. Like I love The Good Dinosaur. I know it's not a great Pixar movie, but it's one that I actually I enjoy, and it's got a special place in my heart. There should never be a Good Dinosaur attraction by itself, but I would love to see a portion of that represented in an attraction. I would love to see a portion of Brave in an attraction. Yes. Maybe it sounds crazy, but because no company would ever do this, but I would love to see like the Pixar ride for all the rides that can't carry their own ride. And let's just throw all of those together.
Yeah.
It'd be like a Small World attraction, but for like Pixar movies, and then they could add as they grow, right? Like that would be the ideal thing too. Is that how do you keep it going?
Yeah.
How do you keep adding new stuff? But that's what would make it new and exciting. And I would imagine this park would be like next generation in terms of theme parks if they're spending all that money. So I think that we need to like also assume that's going to happen. Like, I want a plethora of dark rides because it's Orlando, Florida,
Yes.
and it rains all the time here. So I want indoor attractions, but also, I don't know. It's just where are the Muppets? Why don't we have a little Muppet studio? I would love to see that, because that's where I guess maybe we shouldn't limit it to the animation, obviously. So
yeah. Well, see, and I was thinking Pixar too, because there are 4 films. So yes, we've got Toy Story Land, but if we had a Pixar park, like, I feel like there are so many stories in the 4 Toy Story films that we could have something that is completely different from how Toy Story Land is. We could have a carnival. We could have an antique store that was set up as a gift shop with, current things, but looking antique-ish. I mean, there's so many things, and like, I love the Toy Story family. I love everything about Toy Story. And so I feel like they could take it in a different direction from how they brought Andy's yard to life. I feel like there's so much there and I want all of it.
I think Toy Story needs to be buried at this point.
No.
It's overdone.
No, Craig.
I do. You have a great point that there are plenty more paths they can take it, but it's, I
want Coco.
Yeah.
I want some of those other things that mean that are important, to not just we haven't seen Luca yet, but I'm just thinking, like, I want some of these international ones. So it's like the international stories. That's like so it's like a reflection back on being like, it's like a fantasy Epcot. Like, I guess they'd go to Epcot, but whatever. I want Zootopia. We're never going to get it.
Zootopia.
And if we do, it'll go to Animal Kingdom. So it won't make sense in this other park.
I want a popsicle.
Yeah.
We need a popsicle stand. That would be great.
And
Coco can come to the Disney parks as long as Coco does not take over Grand Fiesta Tour. That's I don't want it. I'm sorry.
That's why we're saying this in this way. We're not worried about the other parks.
You know what we're forgetting, though?
Only Fifth Gate. Only Fifth Gate conversation here.
Well, also, yeah, and I guess we've only talked about Pixar, but obviously there's Disney Animation, and then they also have all of the Blue Sky stuff now too, which doesn't seem like a lot, but Ice Age is a pretty big deal. Essentially, I guess there's like 42 films at this point. Yeah. So that's also something I'm sure would draw a crowd, and that belongs to them. And I don't know.
It might.
I don't know if they're going to do anything with it, but
I don't see them doing anything with it. So with Walt Disney animated movies, the hard part is, I think, again, kind of like some of the lesser Pixar ones, of a lot of the movies that are very underrepresented, I don't know how to really make something great out of them. Like Robin Hood, you mentioned, I think there's something there with it. Like, but one of my favorite Disney animated movies that gets no love at all is Fox and the Hound. But also, I don't know how that makes for anything besides maybe a meet and greet. And so it's tough. I feel like
with the old man with the rifle. That's the meet and greet. Is that what you're looking for?
Exactly.
With the pajamas with the back part missing. Yeah.
There's a lot of Disney movies that I love, that like Aristocats and other ones from the
Rescuers?
60s. And Rescuers, but
the Rescuers Down Under.
But how do you translate those into lands or attractions? That's the hard part.
Right.
Is I want to see them, but I feel like we would have seen them, because at some point in time, someone at Disney who's smarter than us would have said, "Oh, this is going to be a A+ idea." But the world's crazy, so I can't.
I think that we're all
albatross.
Oh yeah, I think that we're all just dying for nostalgia, because this year has been so wonky that it's really fun to dream about these Gosh, I mean, I forgot about The Rescuers. I might need to try to find that tonight. I love that movie. That was a movie that that I had access to when I was a kid, not because we had it at my house, but because I babysat for a family who had movies. And so I could watch them with their kids. And oh my gosh.
I never knew I never knew there were two movies. I only knew The Rescuers Down Under. And then like I was an adult, like I don't know, I was probably like 20 years old when I was like, wait a minute, there's two of them? I was shocked. I was also shocked because I was like, wow, how does the animation look so different in these two movies? Because Down Under is definitely in that later, it looks like in the 90s animation style, and The Rescuers is the predating that. So it's like
the old stuff.
Crazy,
Yeah.
but
The OG.
I mean, what do you think in terms of I guess it's hard because I don't think Disney has a priority in making original attractions anymore that don't have a tie-in synergistically to IPs that are pre-existing or something like that. So I know people are going to harp on us for being like, all you're talking about is the movies.
Well, so let's look at it from this case. Princess and the Frog came out in December of 2009, and we know it's getting an attraction, but we
12 years
don't
later.
know when it's actually going to ever see the light of day at this point. And since then, you have Tangled, got great bathrooms, and it's getting representation in one of the international parks, but not here. Frozen has gotten a lot of representation, so that's great. Wreck-It Ralph, meet and greet.
Oh, Wreck-It Ralph, yeah.
And it'll be in
Wreck-It
play,
Ralph could be
but
such a great land. Oh.
That's the play area. It just feels like it's going to be a jumbled mess of nonsense. Big Hero 6 got love overseas. Zootopia getting love overseas. Moana, no real love over here yet. And
there's a water fountain.
Now Raya and the Last Dragon, which
yeah.
We're talking nostalgia. Nostalgia can, for all, I'm going to try to clean up my language on this one. Nostalgia can shove right off because you have all these properties that keep coming out that just don't get any love immediately in the parks besides meet and greets, merchandise opportunities, and and that's about it. Even Frozen took a long time for them to finally start cycling in and embracing this juggernaut that was big for them. They screwed up with this back in the 90s with the all of the Renaissance movies not really taking advantage of them. How long did it take to get
Aladdin still has nothing really.
Yeah, so
Right.
I don't need and there's still speckles of nostalgia that I think need to get thrown in if there was a fifth gate, but for the love of all things holy, start paying attention to the new movies that are coming out, because how many of these movies have made $500 million to $1 billion plus dollars? Like, come on.
That's the thing, is that also by the time this park would open, let's say they announced it tomorrow, by the time this park would open, a lot of those movies you just named are already going to be nostalgic in that era, because you just said Princess and the Frog. You're bordering on somebody who's turning 21 and is like, oh yeah, I'm very nostalgic for that movie because I watched it when I was 7. Like, it's like it's I mean, that's not the it's just it's crazy to me how quickly, I guess this is just what happens when you get older, how quickly the years start to fly by without you being able to plant yourself in any of them.
Hourglass.
But
Yes.
I think that's the thing. That's the hard part, is like, how do they commit to something like that? And realistically, I think that's why there never will be a 5th theme park. But I think that would be like 50 years off at this point. But I don't know. It's like, I think we're going to get a lot of like how Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, how the technology utilized in that, using like the projection in terms of like, and then having the movable objects with it. I think that is the future of what we can expect in terms of like dark rides and things like that, because the amount of money it would take, I think, to like then turn that into something else would be far significantly less than it would be to like demolish, rebuild, retheme, whatever. Right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that because I love Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Yes. Yeah. And it doesn't make you ill these are ways of using projection that, at least the little bit I've done of the projection technology at Universal, I went on The Simpsons and just had to close my eyes and wish that it would be over, because I thought, oh my gosh, what fresh heck is this? Like, what? I'm going to be sick. So
I mean, The Simpsons does make like everybody sick. In fairness, but yeah,
insane. But I like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. There's something for literally every member of the family, young and old, on that attraction. So I'm right there with you, Rhino. If we could get more of those, and it becomes a way that it's not a moment to be had by all, where we're demolishing half of the park when it's time to update, that would be great. If that affords them a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more entertainment on the guest side of things.
So we also threw out the idea of Marvel and Star Wars. Are there any stories that we would like to see in a fifth
Ewoks
based on?
It's on the platform now. It's too late.
It is.
They've introduced it. Yeah, they've introduced it. They're there. I want Wicket. I want to meet all the friends. I want to meet his father. I want to meet them all.
You want to walk in the village. You want to go up into the treetops. Yeah. You want to.
How cool would that
walk
be?
Across the rope bridge.
But in all seriousness, that is the hard part. Where, like, honestly, I feel like I know people will be like, well, Disney has been so heavy into Star Wars in the last couple of years because of Galaxy's Edge and because of all this other stuff, that I think that, I know you just told nostalgia to shove it, but I think that's where they would, if we were to see more Star Wars, I think it would lean into being like how Diagon Alley and is at Universal, where that's like in a specific, takes place within a specific time frame within the visual representation of that movie. Like, that is what they would have to do, I think, with a Star Wars area. Like, if they're going to make a Hoth planet and be like, okay, well, this takes place in Empire Strikes Back, so that's the journey you're on here, or something. I don't know. Here's
where I worry about Marvel and Star Wars in particular, since we're right there right now. I love the current Star Wars attractions that we have at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and obviously Rise of the Resistance takes multiple different types of shows and shoves it all together into one attraction. And then there's not a lot of night and day difference between Star Tours and Smuggler's Run. I mean, one is very interactive, the other you're sitting back and watching it, but in both of them, it's motion simulators for the most part. Mm-hmm. Can Star Wars really be developed without just constantly reusing these same ride styles over and over again? Can Star Wars work as a dark ride, or are we talking about a land that is solely just going to be unique experiences like cantinas and dining and shopping and characters? Is there an opening for something different? Denny's got words.
I do. I have words. I think so. I think there are opportunities here. Like, think back to Star Wars weekends and how amazing those, at least in my opinion, I got to sit and listen to Billy D. Williams talk about getting to be Lando, and Lando is my favorite character. So, like, literally, what I get to sit here and listen to him, and then Ray Park got to listen to him, and he did some of his martial arts moves, which was interesting. It was good, but get to hear just all of the. There's so many voices and so many people behind Star Wars, both the animated series and the movies. Oh my gosh, prequel, and then the classics. And then the sequels, and then looking at any storytelling in the background, some of the people who have written for, get some of those people in and let us just sit at their feet and learn from them a little bit. Like, Star Wars geeks, we want this stuff. We want as much of the behind the scenes stuff, right, as we can get. We want to hear from Wicket, bless his heart. We just want to hear his stories. And I think the same thing with the minds behind Marvel as well. When we look at, what would differentiate a Marvel or a Star Wars area of a park or park in general, I think there's a lot of, good gravy. You guys have slept on concrete floors to be able to be in panels with some of these people before. The minds behind these amazing epic adventures we see on the screen and read in the comic books. What if we had really cool opportunities where, this weekend, we would have Matt Lanter here, who was the voice of Anakin in the animated series. And he would, be able to just sit down and we get to hear his thoughts on it. And it was, certain people at certain times. And so whenever your visit is to Walt Disney World or, to that park, you might get to hear somebody different, which makes the rewritability. It's not a ride, but it increases that value because, it was like that for Star Wars weekends. People wanted the opportunity to get these autographs and meet these people, and every weekend it was someone different. So
you're
I think.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so you're suggesting more than a park built on rides. You're saying we can probably find some rides and unique opportunities to throw in, but let's take it a complete different direction and make it more of a constant festival or convention where you can learn more about what you love versus then experiencing and being part of the story of what you love.
It would be a fandom oriented experience. It would be I don't know. I just think, yes, let's definitely have the attractions, have all those things, because you got to have some thrills going on there, right? But then I just remember how blissful it was to sit there in the Beauty and the Beast live on stage theater and listen to these amazing people who, some of them, I know we have told nostalgia to leave the room, but some of these people were in movies that I watched when I was younger, and I can't believe I'm actually sitting here listening to these people now talk about the behind the scenes stuff of a movie that I've loved forever. So
I was thinking, like you asked about the attraction specifically, and I was like, I don't know that I think in terms of the Galaxy's Edge, the land, all those rides have to be fully immersive because of fully immersive land. But I think if you're you ask yourself, like, what's the level? Like, look at like Tron, the Tron coaster. Like, that's like I know it'll be amazing and it'll be a lot of fun, but I think about that like literally in terms of like how immersive it is. It's not. It will be cool because the music will be playing, and when you get to walk in and you're riding the light cycle. But ultimately, I'm riding the light cycle in the real world because it leaves the building, and most of the attraction is probably from the look of it, is outside of the building, where I'm just on a roller coaster, but I'm riding in the unique position, and it got to start in a cool way. And I'm like, so I think there's opportunity for a Star Wars roller coaster that's literally like a dark roller coaster, like not Rip Ride Rocket, Rock and Roller Coaster, or Space Mountain, where you're just literally projecting the light speed effect, and then you just need, like how they did at Disneyland, you just kind of need the music and stuff like that, and that's simple. It doesn't need to be. Not everything I think needs to be super complicated, but I think we are in that generation of the theme park wars right now, where everybody's trying to outdo each other in terms of storytelling and upping that level, that we are essentially not getting any of those mid-level attractions, like even Everest. Like, I know there's a really complicated backstory, and you guys talk about the queue all the time, but when you just like dollars to donuts, just look at the attraction. It's an outdoor roller coaster that, yes, it has some cool things because it goes backwards, and there was at one time an animatronic that moved inside of it for a hot second. But like, other than that, it's just kind of a roller coaster with a couple of cool moments, and those are okay. Like those don't not have to,
they
it's like
are,
the Hulk at Universal. It's how it starts out. It's like cool.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, Hulk is also not themed at all. Besides, after you get launched off, then you're in an outdoor roller coaster.
Yes.
But so the one thing I have to say about that though that goes with Star Wars that I think a lot of what you just brought up with Marvel can be accomplished a lot easier because there is some basis in reality. But a good example is look at Harry Potter. Like they want to build an outdoor coaster. Before you just retrofit dragons and say, yeah, you're riding on dragons or you're riding away from dragons, however you want to look at it. Replace that with, okay, well, we're going to tell a story through the Forbidden Forest. Well, luckily they have flying motorbikes in that story that they can exploit for a ride vehicle. With Star Wars, I mean, one of the original ideas that they were going to do was a speeder bike all around the area in terms of a ride vehicle like that. But once you start getting into something like Star Wars, you're to put it into like a roller coaster. They don't have a lot of interesting vehicles and modes of transport that can.
Where's the pod racing attraction?
But
where's the pod racing?
That's my problem though with pod racing. Yeah. We're looking at another screen attraction, just like Millennium Falcon. It's when you're dealing with space like that, I feel like they don't have as much room to really expand and go crazy with ideas. Whereas Marvel, I think they'll be able to push the boundaries a little bit more.
Oh, I would love that.
And so
that'd be so cool.
And that's why you're going to see something like Cosmic Rewind that is able to take a roller coaster and blend it with Marvel together.
Yeah.
I'd love to see something like the Iron Man, like if you were flying like Iron Man, you know how I think it's SeaWorld that has the coaster where you like the manta, you like lay it, you like sit and then it like tilts you forward or whatever. I think that would you'd be like, yeah, this could easily be the Avengers. That could have been a test attraction on the Avengers campus for a new Iron Man suit, and everyone's got to suit up, and that's Tony's new invention or whatever. And but the only problem is like I think the reality of that is we're never going to get Marvel stuff here. Like I guess
we have Guardians, Eternals coming out soon. We have
Shang-Chi, maybe.
Shang-Chi. Yeah, as new movies come out that do not rely on the characters that are currently in use at Universal, they will be able to do more.
So the next age Avengers, those we can get here. That's what we need to build toward.
There's still hope.
Build faster.
We are running out of time. We're not ready to call this one yet, but we're running out of time with it. I want to throw out there because it comes up in every conversation about Fifth Gate. It's part of what the questions were surrounding, hey, can you do a topic on this one, what you would like to see in a Fifth Gate? And that is villains.
Weenie. Oh, villains.
I did. That was going to be my last wrap up is every park has to have a weenie. What would we want to see in this Fifth Gate as the weenie? But before we get there, villains. Would it work as a section in a Fifth Gate? Would it work as a full Fifth Gate? I think it doesn't because
I think section.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, do you think not at all, Craig, or do you just don't?
For the most part, no. I find a lot of Disney villains to not be very interesting by themselves. They work in the context of the movie. So to really...
Have you heard of a little show called Phantasmic?
Yeah, and you know what it needs? It needs a whole lot of good to then have that little section of bad. And that's my thing with villains is like... It's the bad. I guess it's very metaphysical or philosophical. I'm making up words now. I'm making up words.
Add that to the Craigtionary.
You can't have good without evil. So I don't know how they make it interesting just having evil characters. Like Gaston is not interesting. His relationship with LeFou and his diet and the way he decorates, that is what makes him interesting, not the fact that he's a villain that loses his mind. And like, I don't think there's a Disney villain that I find interesting on their own that I say, oh, I want to ride attractions and be in this world that's about all of these villains. That's just me, though.
I think okay. I have never thought that it would be a good theme park by itself. When people say that, or for the very reason you're talking about, when it's just pure evil, there's nothing to be won here. You know, there's no triumph. There's no like, yes, that's why Phantasmic still goes on, is because it's like what you said. There's so much good in it, and it's overcoming. That's why we love it, because when Mickey slays the dragon, you know, but it's. I think it would be cool as like its own section, like a small section, like how they've done like in New Fantasyland, how you have like Beast Castle, and that's the Be Our Guest restaurant, and so that's like the Bell area, like something like that, where there was maybe like a dark castle and it was like a dark land. Like if they took inspiration from that video game, what was it called? Epic Mickey.
Epic
Yes.
Mickey. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, Kingdom Hearts is a whole nother story. I'm sure people would lose their mind for that. But like the Epic Mickey, like something like that, where you've kind of stepped in to a reality where like maybe they remove Phantasmic from Hollywood studios, and then that becomes the nighttime show, and then just that like area is kind of like nightmare themed. So its areas, Weenie, is maybe like a dark castle with like lightning or something like that. I remember moving and thinking. It was just they wanted villains because they liked the idea that this would be a park that would open later in the day and stay open until like sunrise. So it would be so that way Disney World would be operating 24 hours a day. There would always be a theme park open. And the assumption essentially being that if it's nighttime, if it's after hours, then what does that mean? That's villains, that's whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. Tron works amazing at night. You know, those sort of aesthetics, those neon things, but I think it would have to be something where it's like one attraction and it's kind of based around something like Phantasmic, something that brings the villains together, because you're right. They don't really work without their heroes as well. Like we love to see them. We love to see Maleficent, but we tried making these movies that were about the villains. And even though it is one of Craig's favorites of the live action, Maleficent 2, in fact, is just it's not. Maybe Cruella will be the exception to the rule. Who knows? But it's like. They're not really hitting as legendary as we want them to be, I guess, right? With a lasting impression.
Yeah, I do like the idea of overnights. I will say that, and particularly when then like think about if you had a park that opened up at dusk, at the evening, and then closed at dawn. And you did have like a Hocus Pocus section. As much as I am growing so tired of that movie, just think about that. If like at the
but you
end
could have a
of
little
the
Salem,
night,
Massachusetts area. The Headless Horseman could be there too, because it'd be like a whole upstate, like New York, New England, and like you could do Sleepy Hollow. You could have Hocus Pocus. You could do like a little villain show. Yeah,
and that's examples of villains where it does work, because let's be real. The villains are more likable in Hocus Pocus than any of the heroes. And the same thing goes for the Headless Horseman and Ichabod Crane. If you've ever watched the Disney short, Ichabod Crane is just he is a piece of garbage. He deserves what he got. So when the villains are actually doing the good and they're not bad, like I am all for it. The Hocus Pocus witches. They needed to suck the souls out of those children. They had it coming through a lifetime of greed.
There's a little Chicago here. They had it coming. Those Sanderson kids. No, the witches,
but sorry, Jackie, I did interrupt you. It felt like you had something to say there.
Good. Yeah, well, I just, what I've always wanted to see is the Queen of Hearts. I want to go on a dark ride through. I want to follow Alice and the White Rabbit, and I want to go through the Rose Garden, and I want the Queen of Hearts. but I want a whole land about it, though. I want.
Oh, you just don't want the one attraction. You want to live in Wonderland.
Yeah, I do want to live in Wonderland. As a matter of fact. I want to go down the rabbit hole, and I want to be transformed, and I want to
honestly, of the properties, I could see that. Like you have the whole Tea Party area, right? Stuff like
didn't they have to do it? Well, they did it a little bit in Paris. They do have a maze that's Wonderland, so it has that. More of their park has that feel, and I think there's a maze in Shanghai too with but that's new Alice, live action Alice, not
Yeah.
animated. But
Gosh, what a
no, I think there is room to exploit Alice in Wonderland a lot more, because that movie literally changes locations every 5 to 10 minutes throughout it.
Mhm.
And
Well, it's like a Neverland land would be cool, because Neverland, well, I don't know how it is in the Disney movie, but Neverland, the land is supposed to be like in the one version has all the different seasons. I was thinking that could be a fun thing in the park too, seasonal like progression. So different things taking place at different times of year. So then you pop that Hocus Pocus or whatever, you put that in like October in the fall in the north. So it's all like that little spot. And then we've got Frozen and stuff, all the Christmas movies, give us a Santa Claus attraction, Scott Calvin
Epic
meet and greet or
Christmas Carol.
something. Yeah. And then,
Yes.
and then summertime, we've got like Lilo and Stitch or Moana there, because it's all like beaches in Hawaii. And then springtime, we get more into the flowery stuff. So that's where like Alice could maybe like come into that or stuff like that. Like that's what I was thinking. But then and if that's the case of that park, maybe that is an overnight park too, because that also is. Now I just really like the idea of the overnight. That was back though when remember when Magic Kingdom would be open at like 2 a.m. That was in that thriving moment there.
you know what, though?
Yeah.
They could
I
call the
love
park
Magic Kingdom.
the Four Seasons, and they could place the Four
hotel right in the middle of it.
Seasons
That's
that
the
we
weenie.
already have. They could place that right in the middle. And so you go stay at the Four Seasons and you explore each section of the Four Seasons.
Golden Oak
I
is
love the
literally
Magic
just
Kingdom in the
the
middle of
town
the
in the
night.
center of the park.
Oh my gosh.
I think wrapping it up kind of with the weenie talk, I think a hotel in the middle, that's
bold.
Universal's basically, that's pretty much what their plans of their new park is going to have a big hotel that's right in there, not directly in the center, but very, very
Think
much
how much
like
money they could charge.
I think it is, there has to be a way to get people into the middle of the park without being in the middle of a park walking through with luggage and stuff. But if they could have the weenie be a hotel in the middle,
Underground.
Oh.
I
They
know.
do it like utilidors, like in Magic Kingdom. So when you
Drones.
get to the hotel, it's like a drones. You want to drop them from the sky?
Yeah, we need to pick people up by drones and just drop them.
I'm not going there.
Little parachutes. Isn't that how the
Parachute.
baby gets made in Dumbo?
I think so. Yes, with drones. It was very popular
With
back
drones,
in the
yeah.
1920s.
Remember it.
They used drones for everything back then.
Yes.
But
Indeed.
any
How the
other
original
Stork
babies
weenies?
were
outfit on.
delivered.
The drone could have a stork outfit on.
There you go. That makes sense.
Any other
I
weenies?
think you
though?
hit it with the hotel, like a castle. If it's a castle, if it's a whatever the object is, if that is a hotel, and it could be like a smaller sized experience, like the Galactic Star Cruiser is going to be, and and it's just. But inside of there, you put a restaurant. You put VIP parties on the roof for day guests. So you have to think about it in terms of how is it utilized in the park already, so that it can be like. Like people can come and go or whatever, yes, you can't use like the pool. Maybe it doesn't even have a pool. I don't know. But like, I think like you incorporate it into the park. I think people pay through the nose for that thing.
They would. And we've got the hotel over the entrance at Disneyland Paris, and then they've talked about doing the same at Epcot. That was floated out there the year before last. So I think that would be okay. I would want to be staying in that hotel at all times. That's
It's an open book. That's the hotel.
Well,
Open book.
That's the thing.
I did think about the open book concept, but that's where I was like, I kind of grossed myself out thinking that if they didn't want like a hotel in the middle, what other icon could represent all these different stories? And immediately I thought, well, you could put a book. That's not very interesting. And here's where I threw
Typewriter.
up. I was like, well, what's the connection between all of it? It's all Disney. And what's an icon of Disney? Well, Mickey Mouse. And
If you say the hat, if you say put the hat into the park, he wants to bring the Hollywood Studios hat back.
I hate that hat. I hated it so much. I thought it was ugly. In a new park, though, that's dedicated to all the different stories of the Walt Disney Company, though, I can see the hat being
my
plopped in the center. I'm just saying. I could see it. It's pretty flat. There's lots of rooms to project on it from multiple angles.
See, the hat reminds me of the hat at the Disneyland Hotel. So I have nothing but love for that hat.
Okay.
Sorry.
I can see it.
I love how we all just
I
like
don't know.
silently judge Jackie, and then
It's a
Denny's the
boat.
one who
It's a
burst
boat.
out. Okay.
Yeah, you
It's
can.
it's
Yeah.
the
Judge
it's
away.
the Mickey's Steamboat Willie. It's the boat. It's a giant boat, and then you stay on the boat like
Oh,
a ship.
yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of cool.
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, now I got
I
an
like
okay.
that.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, you have to have something, right? It's
Yeah.
got to be something big. It's gotta, people have to be able to see it from pretty much anywhere and go, okay, there's the center of the park. That's the driving theme of this whole thing. So yeah, I could see that hat, because I was going to suggest something like something that looks like the studios in Burbank, but those are very low slung buildings. So
Yeah.
that's not something that could be seen from throughout the park. So
I think it's got to be the hat.
it's got to
It's
be that
gotta be the
daggone
hat. As much as I hate to say it, it's got to be the hat. But okay, we're gonna get this one back on the rails. Choo Choo Master, blow it.
Oh.
Okay. So we're back on the rails now, but I think there's going to be a lot more to this one. Obviously, this was just what we threw out. We missed a ton of movies. We missed most of your favorite movies, and I know everyone out there is going to say, "How could you not have talked about this and that and that and this
Indiana
and this
Jones.
and that?" We get it. So what we need you to do is, if you're watching this on YouTube, you need to be very descriptive in the comments section, and don't just throw out a random name for a topic. Let us know what you think needs to be represented and how it could be represented. And if we get enough, then we can do another one of these that's more focused around what everyone out there thinks should be in a fifth gate park. And so we make sure you do that in the comments. And then, of course, you can also leave those extra video suggestions for other topic ideas for Off the Rails, just random stuff, go crazy. And hey, while you're there too, make sure to hit thumbs up on this video and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And all those audio people out there too, I wish there was a better way that you could all give us your ideas. So I'm going to say sign up for a YouTube account if you don't have one yet. You probably do. Find the video and leave comments there, and make sure you share that you're a listener too, but you came all the way to YouTube just to share that input as well. I would give you a random email address to send it to, but I promise you most of us will not get it anyways. So not even gonna bother with that. But we do appreciate all you listeners out there as well too, and make sure you're subscribed and leaving us positive ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. You should do that. But that's it for this week's Off the Rails. Hope you all enjoyed it. This was a fun conversation. Thank you everyone for being here, and we will see you again real soon with another one. Take care. Bye bye.